We don't have Stephen tonight.
No.
Yeah, he's otherwise occupied, so. No stapler.
3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
You ready? Okay, just as a reminder, this is a work session, not a meeting. It's not, there's no public comment, there's no agenda. It's a work session. Since the dissolution of the Village of Keysville, we have been enacting and working on local laws. And I think it's a good idea for us to continue that. And the junkyard law has been a law that has been in the town of AuSable since 1970. And there was a provision made in 1997 and then another one in 2005. So it's been 11 years. And we have several of them that are getting on and, you know, should be reviewed from time to time. So I asked Mr. LeCount, because he is our code enforcement officer, to come and to talk to us about our junkyard law. And because it's pretty detailed, and it's, he works not only with our law, but with, you know, DEC regulations and New York State Fire Code to come into play. So that's why I've asked him to come, and if you guys have any questions about it, I'd like you to be able to ask him. If you feel that we need to update our local law, then I think it's something we should start working on, and we can start that at our May 10th meeting. If, you know, if you think you're ready and you wanna do that, that's fine. If not, then we will just move on to another one and get through our book hopefully this year of all of the local laws. Okay, so how many junkyard laws, how many junkyards do we have in the town?
I think we're doing, let's see, we have 2 Kiss, we have Sard, we have, under there, Mr. Chase.
5.
So it's 5.
5?
I think it was 7 when I came to town, we're on 5.
Okay, yeah, George Morris
George
is no
Morris
longer.
is no longer.
And there was another one
There
too.
was another one that had 4 Army Jeeps. That he
Okay.
kept behind the fence and
Yeah.
whatever, and
Okay,
so we're down 5.
okay.
Maybe I see it in here. How many vehicles constitute how many vehicles we have parked with no license plates on it?
It's not parked with no license plates, it's whether they're roadworthy or not. There's, if you look on, junk equipment's vehicle,
On page 5.
they're gonna,
One
What's your-
vehicle.
what? But, when it meets all the following conditions, it's unlicensed, abandoned wreck, not in any condition for legal use upon the public highways. That's where you get in a sticker when you go to the local judge. That is, the way your language reads,
Okay.
a vehicle is considered junk when it meets all. And that's-
Well, what if you have someone, say you have 4 or 5 vehicles?
Yep.
They're parked in the woods or something,
that becomes an issue.
and they don't have any
If
plates on them.
they don't have plates, and if they're not
But it might
roadworthy
be-
or can't be made
Well, they may be
roadworthy.
made, we'll do that. I say they're roadworthy.
Yep.
Okay.
They have to meet all 5 of these
Okay, so what happens
definitions.
then, you get them out of it?
Only if they meet all 5 of these definitions.
Is that,
No, if they're roadworthy,
Yep.
but they don't have plates, so you could have 25 vehicles,
There's no law that says how many vehicles you can own.
really? You can look at that,
Huh?
we gotta look at that.
But if they're maintained and registered,
They're maintained and registered.
so if you want
with
1,000
plates
cars,
on.
it's not a big deal. As long as they're
Right.
legal. Okay.
But if they're parked, I'm not talking about visible, I'm talking about in the trees someplace, or the brush, behind a, goes back in the field, that's not selling, that's not displaying.
Yep. You wanna just get?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. When Sandy asked me to bring you up to speed on the junkyard laws, I thought I would just go historically to where I came to the town and where we are now. Okay? I've been here, I think, 12 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close.
And then yeah, so when I came to the town, first law we adopted in the town was this one, in 205, okay? And Bill Russell was the attorney for the town at the time, and there was a discussion amongst the town board over junk, as we're heading now, and I think it's the 97 law was rewritten for 2005.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the law you have in front of you is the most current in the 2005 law. To take into consideration that law, I went to state of New York, 45 pages on controlling junk, and this is the guideline that Bill Russell used to write this law. Okay, and what they have in here is they have a model law, and then you take that model law and you customize it to your particular municipality out of there. And there's basically 3 pages out of here that I wanted to share with you, each one of you, on this. Okay. 2, 3, 4, okay?
And we're gonna collect some for Steve.
And,
Make sure he has some.
yeah. And the whole thing is here, and I'll leave it with Bonnie, and if you guys want a copy, you can have a copy.
We'll consider if we wanna make changes.
Yes, we wanna make changes.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But what I'd like to do in this is go to page 4, and under B, the first paragraph, says if a city, town, or village adopts its own local law or ordinance to license or regulate junkyards, that term is defined by General Municipal Law 136. Then 136 will not apply and may not be used as a basis for enforcement against an unlicensed motor vehicle junkyard operator. Okay? This rule applies whether or not local law or ordinance is more or less restrictive than the General Municipal Law 136. So this gives each municipality their own latitude as to how much we want to regulate or how little we want to regulate, all right, off of the model law. The exception to the statement, go there, I'm sorry, it prohibits the establishment of motor vehicle junkyards where any part of the junkyard is within 500 feet of a church, school, hospital, public building, or place of public assembly. And if you're not violating that statement, then you can now adopt your own local law, right? Going on to page 7, under letter A, there's actually 3 regulators to the junkyard. There's an auto recyclers, okay, section where environmental aspects are taken into consideration and are regulated by the DEC. And there's also a dismantlers situation where a junkyard dealer is taking parts off and selling those parts and what have you. So if you're dismantling a vehicle, you have a dismantler's permit, which is regulated by the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. Okay, so here it says the Department of Environmental Conservation regulates aspects of the automotive recycling industry to ensure protection of the environment. Where serious environmental problems are suspected, regional office of the DEC should be contacted for enforcement. Okay, so if we've got a situation where we have a junkyard that's had some environmental issues, that's the DEC's enforcement issue on those. Disposal of waste tires, anything up to 1,000 waste tires, state law prohibits storage of 1,000 or more waste tires, and that's not attached on rims or to cars. Okay, so if you're concerned about the fire issue or the ponding of water inside of those tires for mosquitoes to breed and what have you, that's the magic number is 1,000 tires. Okay? Under the dismantlers portion on B, the second paragraph, a local government has limited involvement in the dismantlers permit process. The applicant for a dismantlers permit must first provide a copy of the license issued by the municipality, evidencing that the business conforms with the local laws and ordinances. Okay? So that's part of their permitting process for the dismantlers, is they have to show, or in the event that you have a municipality that does not have their local junkyard, a statement on letterhead from that municipality that one's not required. Right? As a prerequisite to them getting their permit there. Okay. So, and then on 8, at the very top of the page, you will see it, New York State Department of Motor Vehicles is charged with administering and enforcing dismantlers permits. And if notified, will send an inspector to the site of possible unpermitted operation. Okay, so anything to do with, you know, are we taking in illegal cars and, you know, whatever, that's out of our jurisdiction, our control, okay? So I wanted to just go over those things. And if we take what I've said so far and move to the town of AuSable junk and junkyard law, let's keep going here, there's a couple of areas here I wanted to, on page 10, okay? The biggest issue that we had and the biggest conversation that we had when we adopted this law in 2005 was fencing of the junkyard, okay? So, de-fencing on our local law, the last sentence on the page, fencing requirements may be waived where topography or other natural conditions effectively prohibit the entrance of children and others. The other reason for screening other than safety was for aesthetics, and the last sentence in E says adequate planting of evergreen trees or shrubbery may permit such screening. All fencing shall be of an earth tone color. I don't know why you put that in there, but you did. So with that in mind, I'm going to share with you now just a junkyard, and I'd ask that we not divulge names on these. This is just a picture that we can discuss on a particular junkyard. And I can, by way of example, say to you that I'm going to give you a second one to put behind that. Looking at the first one I gave you, relative to fencing, one of the concerns we had at the time was, in this particular one that we're looking at, you could build a 50-foot high fence, but as you're coming down the highway, if it's in the bottom of the valley, you're not ever going to screen the junkyard, okay? The important thing is safety for public access, and what was derived, we've had a couple of situations. We had the George Moore junkyard that no longer exists, had a problem with big trailer trucks coming in the morning and having to park and stage out on the highway with school buses having to go by. And after a year of coercion and whatever, we finally got them to move their gate in far enough that it could hold like 3 tractor trailers before going into the junkyard, okay? So when I came on board, these junkyards were established, the old junkyard law was established, and we just felt we wanted to improve things as we could. So they were pre-existing, non-conforming situations, some of them been in business 50 plus years, okay? So with that in mind, we say, what can we fix given the situation that we have? So my first response is safety. fire safety and keeping children out. This particular junkyard, you'll see that there's a chain link fence up against the highway with a lockable gate, okay? And if you look to the left and right on the second photo, you'll see trees, trees, trees. You'll see a river. There's no buffering fire issues, okay, with that. And as far as looking at, is there fire access in the event there is a fire, if you go back to the first one, you'll see that there's several loops of roads so that things are put in certain size pods within the facility, not all grouped in one big pod up against a tree line where if there was a fire on the edge of it, you couldn't get to it, okay? So with that, I take reasonable assurance that things are not 100%, but adequate, okay? And that's the take I take on that, all right? So I just want to use that as an example, okay? We have just recently adopted a zoning law. In our zoning law, we have prohibited any more junkyards in the town of AuSable. So the junkyards, anything that's here now is the last it's ever going to be, okay? So as they continue to shrivel and get smaller and smaller, both in size and activity, which they will, to aging owners and what have you, they will eventually go away, all right? So we're not going to be faced with any of the junkyard portion of the 2005 law to apply anymore. All we're going to be applying is the junk portion on a residential basis, other than the existing junkyards, okay? And then with that, I'm going to just give a copy of the form that I use for inspection each year. When I go to the junkyards to inspect, this is a little check sheet that I choose to regulate because I think it most closely applies to what we're looking for within the municipality. Is the junkyard under the personal management of the person that's been doing it all along, or have they assigned someone there who's I'm not familiar with, who probably is running things other than what has been normally happening in the past? Is the office maintained and adequate? Okay. Is there an 8-foot solid fence? No, there's an 8-foot chain link fence, a safety fence. Disassembly method's okay. Is it a lockable gate? Is there a sanitary facility if they have employees where they can wash and get to eye wash if they have something in their eyes or something out, as far as working there adequate? Is it clear of trash? Is there any burning taking place? And is the activity taking place within the perimeter, inside the perimeter of the place itself? And general appearance of orderliness and safetiness. This is my annual walkthrough, unless I get a complaint. And if I get a complaint, then I would go visit the proprietor of the junkyard and just ask some questions and follow up on complaint. And that's how we're moving forward thus far.
And when somebody makes a complaint, they usually make it to you, or if the town receives a written complaint.
Well, I've been responding to verbal complaints. I've never gotten a written complaint.
Wow.
However, I'm feeling like most municipalities of any size require a written complaint to respond to a complaint.
Well, when we have it, on our other ordinances, we have a prior notice law. And when someone has a problem with an existing road, sidewalk, fence, anything that belongs to the town, is required for us that they submit the complaint in writing. And that's been standard procedure for 20-some odd years.
Right.
Okay? So that wouldn't be any different with this.
But if you're looking to change anything,
Well, I know seriously, and you and I have gone back and forth about some residences in the community that have a lot of junk
Exactly.
and stuff that really, that we get complaints from their neighbors. And one of the advantages of having ordinances is to be able to help the people who have to live next door to somebody who does not wish to, live neatly. I don't know how else to say it, but, I mean, we've been working on one on Route 9 forever, since you've been here. And, it just doesn't seem to get any better, so I don't know if there's some way that, something else we could do to kind of help, because you've got a business across the street from this one particular place, and this lady has just a very simple, nice business, and the poor thing, what she has to live across the road from is really, it's sad. It's sad. And then we've got an issue out on Grove Street that I've talked to you about too, that I'd like to go out with you and stand there and look and see what we can do, because the people out there are complaining about that. And I will get a written complaint on that, actually, because I have talked to the gentleman. All right? Because there really needs to be something that we can do about it.
I've been out there twice, but there's no one there when I'm there.
Well, we know where
But
this,
we now have,
we know where this person
I
lives,
now know
and we
where
can
this-
serve him,
exactly.
okay? Because those people, it's just, that's ridiculous, and it gets worse every day.
And the road below the other house, I had a phone conversation with Mr. Gracie yesterday.
Oh, good, okay.
He has Mr. Rins going in to give him a quote to clean it up.
Oh, okay, okay. There's been a lot of activity down there. I don't notice any more stuff, but there's been there's a lot of tracks down there. Because the ground's soft now, and you can see people coming in and out. You can see that people are bidding out there, so perhaps there have been. Once it is done, then the town's gonna move to abandon that road. Like we had talked about doing earlier. It serves no purpose to us, and the landowner on each side could make more use of it than we can, so.
Here's my question about your checklist. It's nice to work with a checklist, that way you don't miss items. However, though, it also assesses how we do things. Each, I know Mr. Smith's junkyard, I know John Smith's junkyard, and I know Sarah's junkyard. I go by them, often. But each one is unique.
All five of them.
Yes. So we're somewhere within the checklist, I think you need to create, in my opinion, an area for that uniqueness of each one. And still within, it is still, within guidelines of the local law. That way, we got to treat them all the same, but yet also be able to work with their uniquenesses too. So,
They all have the same checklist in general that we have here. But there's unique situations in each one that there's not one of the five, if they came to the board today, under the new junkyard law, to apply for a junkyard license, no one would receive it.
No, we get it.
Not one of the five. would
but
get it.
I know I haven't been on here since 2005. I've been on the board shortly after that,
Yeah.
and we worked on it briefly after that. And I've been now on the board for 7 years. So I would hope to see and within 7 years, you'd think, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're the experts on this, you two. We should be nearing at least a 95% solution that they're all in compliance with the
They're
law.
pre-existing and they have situations that prevent that from happening.
Okay, so, like what type of things are preventing them from doing that?
Well, take one junkyard where the neighboring houses are gone up against it, and it's just got if it were to shrink down, it would no longer exist.
Okay,
It's that small,
okay.
okay? Like I said, it will go away. Does it hurt anything the way it is now, or is it getting any bigger? No.
And that's
Okay?
one of the reasons too for fencing too, is to keep it
Well, this
front, and to
has-
keep
this
everybody
has-
within their
Yeah,
footprint.
yeah, we're within the
Within the-
footprint.
That's, the fencing prohibits them from growing anymore.
Right.
And that's very important, to make sure that they all have a fence. Not only for safety, but to keep them contained.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I understand understand where you're coming from. Try and do something each year to make it a little bit more conforming.
We made agreements with 2 junkyards about fencing. Do you recall that?
Yep.
Yeah, we did, and about getting, it wasn't easy.
But I
it
took
X
the,
number of
I
feet per
took the
year.
board's directive on this. I didn't take it upon myself in those situations. We came to a consensus as a board, these are the things that we're gonna try and do. But once those were done, we kind of just stuck with this. So, yeah, I've become complacent in that respect.
I'm not saying that, I'm not saying just you alone, I mean, I think the board as a whole probably has, that was an issue that was brought up, then we kind of let it go from there, and haven't revisited it. I'm not saying, I'm not here to place any blame on anybody, but, I just wanna make sure that we're gradually increasing to where, one, it's safe, two, all junkyards are treated the same, but also you've got the uniqueness.
I have to say something though.
There's no public comment.
Okay.
Absolutely none. This is a work
No, I
session
know,
for
and I
my
know
board
what you're
members.
saying, but
This is a work session for
So-
board members.
that's-
If they
that's-
feel they want this on the agenda to make revisions to their law, then we will put it on the agenda at our meeting, at either the May meeting, the June meeting, whatever is their pleasure. But this is a work session for them to work with Mr. LeCount to find out. We're gonna be doing this with all our local laws. We've enacted 4 new ones since 2015 in regard to dissolution. And it's just a good time, because we are
To review the old ones.
to review the old ones and
Yeah.
see what we need to do,
Well, we
if
have-
there's anything that needs to be done.
We've had a lot of changes since the building.
A lot of
itself, so
changes.
If they're not gonna have no new junkyards.
The zoning has prohibited any new licensed junkyards.
I don't see a whole lot of new laws.
Pardon me?
I don't see a whole lot of new laws coming in, as they're grandfathered in to what we got.
That's not what they're saying.
No.
They're just reviewing.
Yes, we're just reviewing.
They're
We're not,
We're talking about new laws.
They're not.
Not
No.
necessarily referring
I
to
don't think
junkyard,
so.
but other ones in general.
no,
But we're just here, I mean, I'm a newbie in this place.
Yeah.
On the board, and before I got it, there was only a land planning, which was okay for a town not progressing. But we have a really, possible, prospect of becoming more developed.
Mhm.
And so, when the village dissolved, and we took upon the fact that we put a zoning in the town, not just, we keep the village zoning
Right.
and the old parameters of the village. So in doing that, we set down some guidelines, I thought, and I know we did, that will make the land more enhancing, but it was not to obstruct anyone's right to make a living. That was, was already existing.
Mhm.
The thing is, this county is gonna be growing, and we have some developmental land available that some other towns don't have. And so, with the zoning laws in effect in the town, along with our planning board and our zoning board of appeals, if a developer wants to come in and put a large housing development, say, in Hardness, or down by the lake, or up in Clintonville, they will have that opportunity, knowing full well that the land they build those houses on are gonna be protected. So you put some big structures up, $300,000-$400,000 that are going now, because these people are gonna be making good wages. And I'm talking about Norris coming, and that's already beginning to bring in other industries into this area. So, I was talking to some people the other day, they said, you all thought you were on the outside of the perimeter, but we're not anymore. So even our water system and our wastewater systems will have to be readjusted. I don't know, that will be another topic of conversation. I don't wanna get into that, I'm digressing, but just by having the zoning code in effect will now make the town more progressive, which
More
will
people.
enhance our tax base, which will enhance us to keep our taxes well within reason. But it was not meant to put anybody out of business.
like Bill had initially said, safety was number one on the list for, you know,
Right.
for enacting the law to protect the public and the people who are running their business.
I've been in the fire company about 53 years, and the biggest, we've had a couple, one particular was where the old village dump used to be on Grove Street. We had an incident up there, and it took us 3-4 days to control that, put it out. So I see with the new regulations, this is not allowed, so it's under control. Before it wasn't under control. That was just a huge mess.
Darcy, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I got from Bill is, on page 10,
Oh, are you looking,
The 2005.
oh, the law?
says 100 feet of any stream, lake, pond, wetland, or other body of water. How do you derive the 100-foot point? Is it the high water mark? Is it the edge of the bank?
That I don't have to address because that's only for somebody coming here to apply for a new
Yeah, that's right, you did say that.
new junkyard for a new one. Anything that's pre-existing, that's already been there, okay? That being a water setback will be a DEC call, because it's environmental,
Okay.
okay? So it's pre-existing non-conforming prior to this law being written. What you're reading only applies to somebody coming in to apply for a new junkyard.
Okay.
It has to meet these requirements. And in that case, our planning board would hire an engineer to represent the town to review their application on our behalf. And they go out and find the high water mark and all that kind of stuff and do their
So,
site plan.
so in other words, this is just strictly, a pre-existing law, or a pre-existing.
No, this was law up until we adopted zoning and did away with any new junkyards. So, once the new zoning came into play, that section of this law no longer applies because we can't entertain a new junkyard in the town.
Okay, well, hold on here. I do got a question about that. So if you're saying this is only for new junkyards?
Yep.
For the 100 feet, you say we don't have that zoning. I can go ahead and open up a brand new junkyard right on the river.
No, you can't.
Well, I know, I'm not, no, just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, say I'm pre-existing before the zoning law. You let me doing it. I've met the original criteria of 100 feet away from the water.
Yep.
But after that, further inspections by you saying I don't have to be 100 feet from the water?
No,
Isn't that what I just understood?
yeah.
That's what I understood.
I'm saying, yeah.
What I'm saying is, take this particular junkyard you're looking at.
Right.
Because
Okay.
if somebody's applying, they'd be applying through the planning board,
Right.
and this is the criteria that
This would be the criteria for the new applicant to open up a junkyard.
Right.
A pre-existing non-conforming junkyard
that was existing before.
that was existing prior to the adoption of our junkyard, our first junkyard law, in fact,
1970.
okay? Was pre-existing non-conforming, okay? And I understand what you're saying is, it should be our objective to try to bring that junkyard into a conforming status, okay? Under those regulations. When it comes to, the contamination of water, the environment, or anything to do with the environment, the legislative enforcer is the DEC,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
That's an environmental issue, okay? That issue has to, when it's presented as a new junkyard to our planning board, we have to have adequate things in place to prevent that from ever happening in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you have a pre-existing situation that's always been there, always been renewed, when you see a violation, and a violation is reported either by a citizen or by the municipality or whatever, that enforcement is DEC, environmental enforcement. Make sense?
Yep. But it goes back to the same thing, I mean, I wanna know what the determination of high high water mark is an.
They use a 100-year floodplain. And if you get a flood map for that area, it'll tell you what that is. You get a GPS location on it, it'll tell you what the level is.
Well, we had a 100-year flood long time,
I know.
a few years ago, and the high water mark
I know.
changed.
Well, if it went higher than it did sometime previous to that 100 years, then yes, it did.
Yeah.
And what would those new where would those new guidelines come from? Would they come from the DEC?
No, they would come from FEMA.
The floodplain.
Flood maps. We have floodplain maps here in the
Yes,
town.
we do.
Do we have any new?
We have, I don't think ours haven't changed, ours didn't change. Last time, the last letter that we had gotten, they had not changed.
I'd like to get a copy of that.
The floodplain maps you can have, they're right here. But as far as a copy of the letter, the last, I don't even know if I can, I honestly don't know. But I can get it, we happen to be working with FEMA right now on Stella. So, yeah, we can get that.
You know, just to see if they ever upgrade it or change it from, you know, the high water mark. And if they haven't, you know, I understand.
Every 10 years they do. When I was on the job, every 10 years it came through, and revised the floodplain, or looked at the floodplain to see if there was any occurrences or any situations that would make a new measuring situation happen. So it hasn't been 10 years yet. I mean, so they're gonna be doing it pretty soon. So about every 10 years.
Well, they've just recently done it, this last year.
They did?
And they don't do it by coming out, they do it all
Oh,
by
right.
Yeah.
satellite.
Yeah, yes.
Before that, when I was working, and that was part of
They do it
my,
on a computer
part of
now.
my job, to work with FEMA to do this floodplain
Yeah.
maps for all
Because
the
we
towns
did
in the
get
county.
maps.
And, they didn't, well, technology has changed a lot since I retired 12 years ago.
And I will tell you that wetlands change seasonally.
Yeah.
You can have your wetlands mapped on here this year, save it, and have a new person come back next year and flag it again. And I guarantee you 100% it's gonna have different boundaries.
Oh, yeah, depending upon how wet. the
Yes,
dry season is.
yes, so that's a moving target all the time, okay, from a wetland issue. But that's why I think they go and they say, well, we're going to, when we plan in the planning process, instead of trying to catch this at some place, we're gonna take the worst scenario, and that's the 100-year flood mark. What's the worst flood we've had in the last 100 years? That's the benchmark we're gonna use for planning purposes for this new development.
So what are your recommendations as far as changing some of these laws?
I don't think the law itself has to change.
Okay,
Okay, I would check with legal to find out if this needs to be then amended to take out the junkyard section
Yeah.
of this law.
Okay.
Okay, and so we're now controlling junk with the junk section of the law.
Right.
Because it's no longer applicable.
Right.
That would be the only change that I would recommend. And then just from an enforcement issue, know full well that it's not on the municipality to do all the enforcement. It's on Department of Motor Vehicles and the DEC
Great.
and the
Who applies
municipality.
to what and where and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
well, I get that in certain parts, I get down in the DMV part, we can't track stolen parts, cars, things like that, I mean, I have no knowledge, I mean, I know they got their own enforcement agency, guys with badges and guns, I get that. I guess my question would be just really the enforcement of setback, I mean, you know, if you happen to see it's 100 feet, if a vehicle's within 100 feet of water, or within 50 feet of a road, or too close to a building, or whatever,
well, that's, again, if it's a pre-existing, you've got buildings and structures, okay? You can't move. Yeah. I guess it's a judgment call. And it's a judgment call, when I go in, if you're saying we want to bring these 5 existing junkyards into total compliance with would be acceptable, you may have to find yourself closing a few of them. And when you do, there's also a section in here that talks about the amortization schedule that you gotta go in and close them. And it gets litigious from their end of it because you are now affecting livelihood and income. And,
Well, I'm not saying anything about closing.
no, but what I'm saying is, if
Somebody may
If
not
I,
have.
if I give you, I can't arbitrarily come in and say, I want you to do this. If I'm gonna enforce the speed limit, I'm not gonna say, I need you to slow down by 3 miles an hour and I'm not gonna give you a problem. I'm not there to bargain. You either are or you're not. You're pre-existing or you're brand new. If you're pre-existing and you're not going to become more non-conforming than you were at the time I began enforcement on you, okay? The law says you're pre-existing non-conforming at this size. Now, as soon as you go outside this perimeter and you grew over to here, I can say, hey, you weren't here last year, bring that back in, okay? In fact, I've done that. I've done what I'm just talking about, I have done that.
Right.
And there was no problem. Whoop, didn't realize, whoop, yeah, we'll do that, okay? But, as long as they don't go outside the perimeter of what they had when I took over and they were non-conforming.
Okay.
You see where I'm coming from?
I mean, I understand some of the arguments. Somebody buys a piece of property on top of a hill, they know that hill overlooks a junkyard, that's not them. Buying a property, wanting to plant a house, they knew what they were buying. I get that, I understand that. Just, this stuff here is just, there's a lot of.
There's stuff here that's common sense.
Common sense and there's.
Okay. And then the one thing I'm not gonna do is go outside of my enforcement powers,
Right.
because then,
Right, I understand, yeah. But like I said, if the waterways, you don't have no bearing on the waterways.
That's just laying it out for anybody new that wants to start, and now.
That's
Well,
right.
I understand that,
Yep.
and that's why we're taking a look at this.
That's right.
And we should, get things taken out that don't
And I will check on that, that makes sense to do, that's what we'll do.
go in his, within Bill's procedure, so to say.
Mhm. Mhm.
'Cause
And we may,
each municipality's different.
Yep.
I don't have the same checklist as Town Falls that I have here. It's a little, almost, but it's a little bit different. But it's totally different there too, okay? I have 2 junkyards, and I have 5. And they also are unique and were pre-existing.
oh, they were as well, and they've probably been there forever.
No new junkyards have come in since I've been in this business. Either town.
Good information.
So this 100 feet is a DEC issue.
Anything with the word environmental attached to it, the 2 go together, DEC and environmental.
The setback, and that's the town issue.
No, everything you're looking at, Darcy, is really irrelevant because it doesn't apply.
Because it's for a new junkyard.
Okay.
It's for a new applicant.
What I would like, or I'm concerned, what I would like you to do, as far as I'm concerned, drop a new law, what your responsibility is for the town of AuSable, being the code enforcement officer. for the
Well,
job.
as a code officer in the town, okay, my directive was to enforce the local law of 2005. And that's what I'm doing.
Well, according to this local law of 2005, a 100-foot setback is part
No.
of your.
That never applied. Because that was only for new junkyards.
And since he's been here, he hasn't had a new junkyard. And I know it's just, it's not gonna drive me nuts, but.
So your checklist is pretty much the compliance that we go through.
Yes, because he's had no new junkyard since he's been here, okay? So that section that you're looking at,
The section you're looking at follows a site plan.
Right.
we haven't done any new site plans on
We
any.
have not done any new site plans to these regulations. All the junkyards that we're dealing with were junkyards that were in existence prior to these regulations being written.
Okay. So, on some of these, one particular that we're gonna take a look at, it looks like they're forming a junkyard.
Yeah.
Because as I'm reading here, I'm seeing almost all of these things.
Understand?
So,
And Dave, we can stop with that.
that's what I want.
Yes.
That's what needs to be.
Yeah, I know-
Yes,
I
and
know
there's
where it
about
is.
there will be about 5, 6 very happy neighbors on that road.
Yeah.
And then there's the other issue too.
Right.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any other questions? I will talk to council about removing this, the, information on forming a new junkyard. And we will have to amend,
It'll be an amendment to this
it'll be an
law.
amendment to
That
that.
portion will be taken out
To a
of the law.
specific junkyard?
As long as they're named. Because we're not talking about this, I'm trying, you wanna apply this to a particular junkyard, is that what you're saying?
Yes, if they were willing to answer your question.
If who's willing? No.
So for existence, if you needed to pick up a row of cars and move them 100 feet, how much would that cost you? That general know?
It's pretty general,
Okay.
just because he is a junkyard.
Right, he's a junkyard manager, he knows how to run a junkyard. Say 40 cars. For a thought number.
Run that by me again, too.
If you had to move 40 cars 100 feet,
Oh, okay.
how much would that cost you? Because you're an expert in that field.
And how far you're gonna move them, I would
Say
guess.
100 feet straight forward,
You'd have to have the room to move them.
okay?
I really couldn't answer that, I don't think.
Okay.
Depends on the time it takes you, I guess.
Mhm.
And if there's anything else, because theoretically you'd have to move everything else, and as long as he had room enough to do it, he can't, what is it, you're gonna stack them on top of each other?
If you have
Well,
to
that's a
make,
possibility, yeah.
if you have to make room, then it's more expensive.
Now, stacking on top of each other is a safety
Safety
issue.
issue.
Okay.
Big
Not
time.
good.
Not good,
Okay.
No.
so we don't do that.
Unstable services.
I understand. Sometimes when I'm asking questions, it's because I'm learning. And you
Yeah.
see some of this stuff on TV where other places are corrupting your staff. So that's where my frame of references come from. So I don't think this is but
And it depends, were they drained? Are they drained before you're doing that?
Yeah, there's
Because when
nothing
you're moving
against,
cars around, then it can go into the ground.
that you can't stack a car, I guess, but we don't make practice of it.
okay,
It's not good.
It's just, that we sell parts,
right.
so if you don't stack on top of each other,
Can't get the parts.
you can't get to the parts and you ruin your parts. So,
Okay.
It's just not safe.
Okay.
So we're gonna check with council and take out what we need to take out and make an amendment to the law.
Yes.
Yep.
We can do that. We are currently working on the arch project across the river. That, I spent most of the day going back and forth on that, so I will get on this with her tomorrow, because I'm actually working one of the associates on that, so. I'll get on this with her tomorrow. I'll just scan it over and have her look at it, see what we can take out, if we can take out anything to do with the new. And you guys, and again, if you wanna put this on the agenda for the May 10th meeting, just let me know, and we'll put it on the agenda. You wanna start talking about it, if you wanna add anything, and just let me know so that we.
Where did,
we go.
those first 3 pages you give us go? Was that the DEC or state?
No, that's from the state of New York on controlling building. And I just took those pages out of this document for you, for your purview, so you realize that there is the EDC and the Department of Motor Vehicles also reviewing the junkyards. Not just us.
But are they non-conforming?
Pre-existing non-conforming,
Yeah,
They-
pre-existing non-conforming doesn't matter.
doesn't apply
or
to them.
Doesn't apply to them, because
So
they're
DO
they're enforcing violations. Okay, so if, for example, if that 100-foot, okay, is deemed by the DEC as a violation under their rules, they can enforce that at any time they want to.
whether or not we've given them a
Whether
permit to have a.
they don't need our permission. They can go, they go do an inspection, there's a complaint, they go do an inspection, they give a list of violations, then the operator owner is going to be given a certain time frame and a set of remedies that they're gonna need to take, otherwise there's consequences. And they could shut them down. But that's out of our,
Okay.
In any area,
in any area.
it's a waterway, it has nothing to do with any water. Creek,
See, well, that was wastewater.
Not just that, but you've got, you've
don't
got
have-
battery
you don't have
acids, you've
authority.
got
You do not have authority.
discharge of antifreeze,
What comes out, they watch our
or not
wastewater.
antifreeze,
We don't have authority.
Freon.
You're right.
freon capture.
Now we've just added
Huh?
$1 million.
Yeah, and that's,
ultraviolet
again, freon recovery, I don't call it freon anymore, they got a new, but again, that's a DEC permit, not us.
Very good. Anybody have anything else?
It's a big place.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill, for giving us a hand with this.
One other thing,
Yes. Go ahead, Bill.
that individual, is that his signature?
No,
Let's see, his signature on there is.
in addition to mine,
Right.
Okay.
Knowing that he received it.
not a problem, we'll do that going forward. We'll do that going forward.
They all probably should be signed.
Yep.
By the individual.
Now, with this comes a check from the individual with their signature,
Oh, yeah,
to Bonnie, just so you know.
Okay.
This doesn't come in with,
Sometimes Bonnie don't share too much information.
no, but what I'm saying is, they're giving me a check with their name on it,
Right.
signing that check, and that check's gonna be turned in with this both. Or,
And she
yeah,
probably-
but having them sign this is no problem.
Probably makes a
We'll
copy
do
of the
that,
check on the
we'll,
back of the
we'll keep-
license.
we'll do that from now on.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Bill.
So then you get a paper trip.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, back to the same thing, if there's a complaint, it should be rating, not verbal.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly, that's for
right.
anything, that's exactly right.
I have a model form that you can adopt,
Okay, good.
we use it in Queensbury, I love it.
Okay. Just bring that up, send it over to Bonnie, to Mary.
But I agree, I think our bigger issues are these households.
Oh, they are, without a doubt.
And that's something I'd really like to try to work on, because it's the poor innocent people that live next door to
That and, well, not only junk, but farming.
Okay, good.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Good.